Welcome to West USA Weekly, the podcast, your go-to source for everything real estate in Phoenix, Arizona. We're breaking down market trends, local insights, and the moves that matter most to Valley agents. Interviews, tips, and the latest from one of Arizona's top brokerages, all in one place. Let's dive in.
Good morning, West USA. Welcome to another edition of our Monday morning podcast. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Let's take a look at what we got coming up today. It's been a while since I looked at this, so this is going to be a surprise for me as well. All right, we got Todd, of course, here to give us a look at the numbers. Justin Frederick here to give us our mortgage minute. And I'm going to share 3 things not to worry about. And I'm going to offend some of you. I'm just going to get some stuff off my chest.
You offend somebody?
He's a good one.
No way.
Yeah, I'm here to gripe today.
All right, that's a cliffhanger.
All right, so
I'm in.
Not excited.
And of course, we got Roy Cady, one of our coaches and top producers here at West USA, going to share some secrets to his success and the things that he has learned along the way. So strap in.
Yeah,
we've got a big morning ahead of us. All right. As always, if you've got any comments and questions, you can feel free. I should have removed this slide because people are going to.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of comments and questions.
Yeah.
Just Mike at westusa.com.
That's perfect because that's not my West USA email. So,
well, we're forwarding it to you now.
So another Mike's going to get those. All right. Tom Menard's got a CE class virtual coming up this Wednesday from 9 to 12, 3 hours of disclosure law. And as always, you can find all of our events on your dashboard. Or if you're not with West USA, you're always more than welcome to join us. You can just go to westusacalendar.com to RSVP for any of these events. All right, special class coming up, understanding the AAR pre-qualification form for the realtors. All right, that's coming up Thursday from 10 to 1 o'clock.
I wish they'd understand this form. Truly, I do.
I have Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just tell him. I just ask him.
Well, you have people.
I have people. Yeah. Anyways, just big shout out to Carlos Cicero for putting this together. They were up here at the North Phoenix office a couple weeks ago, and I walked by and I just popped in and got my fingerprints done. And so this is a thing. So everybody, if you haven't had your fingerprints done within the last 6 years or more than 6 years ago, you're going to need to get this done. So take advantage of these opportunities. So this is going to come up Tuesday at 11:30 to 2:30 at the Arrowhead office.
The short of this is simple. If you renew before January 1st, you really don't have to worry about this right now. However, here's the problem. Every other agent in the world is going to be worrying about it on January 1st. Mm-hmm. So it is going to complicate the process. So this is an opportunity for you just to slide in, get it done, get out, all within maybe, how long, Mike, did it take you?
Oh, it took me 5 minutes.
Yeah. Literally?
Well, it took me another 5 minutes to figure out how to spell my name.
So 10 minutes. There you have it, everybody.
Yeah, you really, really should not wait. Yeah. Get it done as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to join Ryan Reed and Kevin Valley this Thursday at the North Phoenix office. We're going to do a producers panel. So if you got some time this Thursday, stop on by from 10 to 11:30. So I'm just going to sit back and just listen to these two.
I'm really excited to hear Ryan and Kevin talk.
What?
Well, it says from 10 to 10:30 on the slide, so I'm just
10 to 11:30.
No, 10 to 11:30. 10 to 10:30 is the breakfast social. If you look at the top. Okay.
Where's it? Where at the? Oh, way up.
Okay.
There you go.
I have my job.
There you go.
You have your job.
There you go. Stay in my lane.
Stay in your lane.
All right.
But come early, 10 to 10:30. There's breakfast.
All right. So Saturday. I'm starting to see Saturday events starting to pop up. This Saturday in the Goodyear office, 10:30 to 12 p.m. Claudia Ewan is going to be doing a class on short sales. If you've never attended one of these classes, I highly recommend that you do. It's some incredible information. All right. And then we got the jerseys.
Yeah, lots of people very excited. Yep, we got one more week, I think, one more full week. But when the order is made, the order is made. We have had a decent chunk of agents reach out to get their jerseys. Follow the instructions on the Facebook group. If you don't have the link, let us know. We'll get it to you directly. But yeah, get that jersey ordered because once they're ordered, they're ordered.
All right.
Super cool.
All right. And is this the last week?
This is the official last week. If you've not yet taken the survey, you are going to get a reminder every single day this week. So just go ahead and take it. Get you into a running for $300, $150, or $50 gas card. Tell us the good, the bad, the ugly of West USA, and we'll see what we can do.
All right. Appreciate that. All right, Todd, take it away. What's going on in the market these days?
Well, thanks, everybody. Well, lots going on in the market. Actually, it's shifting. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going going over the Greater Phoenix Metropolitan Market statistics for the week ending March 23rd. Here we go. This past week, we had a 79 days closed on market, a 4.02 months supply. Our absorption rate is at 24.88. Average list price this past week, $786,717, and average sale price this past week, $657,105. List price to sale price retention, 97.47. Active inventory up 1.3% to 26,624, pending at 5,039, and closed units month to date at 3,016. New listings taken this past week. We're staying there. 2,420 this past week, 92 days on market for active and 80 for closed. Lower left-hand side, we have our price ranges of all the available property in the marketplace. So this tells you the number of units in each of the segmented price ranges, the days on market, and the percentage of the entire inventory that segment makes up. So again, if you look at the 200 to 800,000, obviously that is the highest gross percentage of the entire inventory. So under 600,000 is at 66%, 600 to a million is 19.11, and 1 million and up is 14.89, and those numbers didn't change. They're within 0.1% this past week, so pretty stable from that perspective. New listings has been doing really well, adding new listings. I'm expecting this to be over 10,000 for the month. We're sitting at 2,420 this past week versus 377 the week before. But again, we're consistently ahead of, we were 2322 in 2024. That didn't come out right. But we are significantly ahead of both of those markets as far as people confidence, sellers' confidence, putting their homes on the marketplace, maybe walking away from those 3% mortgages, maybe in some type of life event forces them to. I'm taking a look at active inventories now, currently at 26,624. There's 761 coming soon properties, 19,704 single family distressed. Non-distressed. That would be very bad if it was the other way around. 2,953 new home construction properties, 26,179 total non-distressed. Our inventory below that, as you can see, the non-distressed inventory is making up 98.3% of the total, meaning 1.7% is distressed. Looking at and those are the distressed ones that everybody knows about. We're sitting at 5,039 for pending. That is a good number. Pending, remember, this we use to determine the buyers in the marketplace. So when this is a strong, high number, that means there's a lot of people. And of course, you can see this happen here because it's week over week. And then maybe next week, which you didn't realize this week, all of a sudden you got more buyers calling you. Your listing gets a lot more attention than it was getting. Why? Everybody wants to know. And this kind of helps you out understand just what's coming if you're paying attention to it. 4,511 last year, 4,342 the year before. So basically anywhere from 5 to 650 more buyers in the marketplace right now than there was a year ago. 4,701 is where we're at month to date. Still a little too early to determine that. But just looking at this number, normally we're kind of neck and neck even when we finish in the green. For the end of the month, we do more than we did the year before. Normally, this time of the month, we're still struggling right around those same numbers. Well, something's going on because right now the market is almost 5% ahead of where we were last year. Taking a look at month supply, and again, that is closed units, let me remind you. These are closed units, not necessarily just open escrows. So month supply is at 4.02, continuing to drop. We're actually below the month supply than we were a year ago. We were at 4.39% a year ago. Now we're at 4%. So you know what's potentially coming, Mike, if that continues that way. That
Not here yet, though, right?
That's a podcast internal thing, yeah. But no, my favorite thing is to tell Mike it's a seller's market, right? But again, and Mike's favorite thing is to tell me it's a buyer's market. So because of this number being 4.02, the market is still acting as though it's a buyer's market, and that may happen all year long. Although it's close enough that if the property's priced right away and it's in the right location, it's gonna engage right away, and there won't be as much of a price discount. Talk about that just a sec. So average or the median sale price did take a jump of about 10,000, and it hasn't been 475 in a long time. So this could be indicative that all of a sudden our prices no longer going down, our buyers no longer getting the same negotiation on those properties that they were getting in prior markets. we'll continue to follow that trend and keep you abreast of what's going on. The market is continuing. Well, of course it is. We're going into our best-selling season of the year. So seasonally. So we're going, and I don't mean seasonally meaning summer. It's going to be a hot market this year. We are also expecting there to be a lot of rain this year for monsoon. So stay tuned for my weather forecast later. But the fact is just that it's that will help. It really will, because it just touches another sense. Last piece here is our list price to sale price retention. So 97.47 is pretty similar week over week. The sellers were negotiating about the same, but what this isn't is lower than 97%. So now all of a sudden we're seeing that sellers are all of a sudden keeping that same 2.2 to 2.8%, 2.5% that is statistically average for the last 5 years. So that's a good sign, because 2021 and 2022, which were banner years, were included in those numbers. So as you can see, even looking at the slide, in the goldenrod in 2024 was 98. So sellers were giving up, weren't even giving up that much, even from that perspective. So as a buyer's agent, this is going to be a tough one. To the victor goes the spoils. The way you write your offer and the way you present your offer to the listing agent is going to determine whether or not you get it, your buyer ends up with a reasonable price on this or not. So, follow Mike's guidelines from a buyer's perspective and go in, but don't go in hot, because if there's more than one offer, you may miss out. So there's the stats for this week. Hope everybody has a great week. Let me know.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of research over the weekend, and I learned that typically over the last 20 years, the wetter the monsoon seasons are normally take place during a buyer's market. So there's a huge correlation there.
Dang,
so
thanks,
yeah,
brother.
Yeah,
you and Chris Smart's taking over the Facebook internet on weather.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see the water. Thanks, Weatherman Todd. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Yeah. So be careful if you're in a flood zone.
All right. Well, as you can see, rates have jumped up last week. Friday was a very tough day for us. We lost 90 basis points on Friday to the rate. That's the biggest day we've seen since April of 2025.
So what's 90 basis points? Like almost 1% of a bar of the
that's
loan
a
amount?
1/4%.
1/4%.
Yeah, roughly a 1/4%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot in one day. So we're already recovering today, though. There's talks of an agreement to end everything over in Iran, and that can make a difference. So if we can get through this, hopefully we see our gas prices drop. Hopefully we see our interest rates go back. But Todd, you were saying, what is going on here? We're getting busy. I mean, if you look at these rates are much lower than they were last year at this time, much lower. So when we get in that spring season, it seems like we're picking up business. We're building the pipeline for the year. These rates matter when we're getting pre-qualified. And I feel like I said before, people are transacting. They like the payments that they're seeing. So although we've had a rough 23 days, we're still doing well. We're still doing well. All right, so we're talking about APR versus interest rate today. And the reason for this is we get a lot of questions. What does APR actually mean? So it's interest rate's actually a percentage rate of it's a percentage of interest the lender charges for using its funds. Determines the monthly principal and interest payment along with the term of the loan. APR is an annual percentage rate. It measures the loan costs, includes the interest rate, the lender fees, and the closing costs. And it's standardized, so it's easy to shop loan estimates to loan estimates. So that's the key word, loan estimate to loan estimate. You're not going to want to look at good faith estimates, because a lot of times good faith estimates will include a lender's calculation, their own personal calculation of APR. The actual LE will give you more information. So why does the difference matter? So two loans can take the same interest rate, but different APRs. Higher APRs usually mean more fees built into the loan, less efficient pricing structure. Lower APRs doesn't always mean the better deal. If you're planning to sell or refinance soon, if you're going after a property that you're planning on living there and fixing it up and then selling it in a year, there's a different strategy to it. You might want to take a higher interest rate with less closing costs up front. So the APR is not everything, but you need to have that conversation with the lenders. Tell them what your plan is to do. That way you can look at what recoup times are. So we're taking the fees and dividing it out by the time that you're planning on being there. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this started like in the 80s. APR came out in like the 80s. And the biggest issue was lenders were hiding fees inside. They were pitching.
They would never do that.
They were pitching the interest rate, but yet at the same token, they were building up the back end of the monies that would cost the consumer more. Well, that's where Regulation Z, your broker's disclosure, came out, which is the requirement of when you do advertise a monthly payment, you're forced to advertise what's called Regulation Z, and that's where it talks about a lot of the things that help identify to someone that's it. So you're right on. I mean, you're nailing this one because this is exactly true. And again, talk to your loan originator because sometimes based on your strategy, just as you said, it might make sense to take what you might not have considered otherwise.
Correct. So, upfront costs can be significantly higher to get a lower APR. So what we like to say it in the business is, somebody comes in, they want the Ferrari of the interest rates. It might make your APR lower, but you might not recoup that cost until the 360th payment of the mortgage. If you're going to be in the mortgage for 360 payments, great. That's a long time.
Right.
A lot can change in that period of time. Loan terms can have an effect on your APR. Because an APR is calculated over the term of the loan, if you're trying to compare a 15-year to a 30-year, it doesn't make any sense. You need to compare 15s to 15s, 30s to 30s. But you want to get that loan estimate. So what realtors should watch for? Help clients compare apples to apples. Same loan type, same loan term, similar closing timelines. Timelines can make a big difference. If I'm a lender and I'm putting that we're closing on the 9th of March and I'm including all the interest for the remainder of the month, but you're comparing me to a lender that is closing on the 31st, there's going to be a massive difference there. There's going to be a lot more cost. Ask lenders. APR is standardized as the cost of borrowing. So ask the lenders what the APR is. Ask them, what fees are you including in this? Are there discount points? So fees matter. Guide for the clients. Short-term homeowners focus on upfront costs. Don't be hyper-focused on the rate, just like I was saying. Look at the cost. If you're going to be there for a year, but you're going to pay $15,000 to close on a loan when you can get a loan that's maybe $150 a month higher in interest, but doesn't have
$15,000.
Maybe has $5,000. You're gonna win by taking the higher interest rate and paying more interest per month rather than paying that extra $10,000 in closing costs. Long-term homeowners, be more focused on APR. It becomes more important.
So this is why it's so important when we're having conversations about builders and so forth. Just they offer these incredible incentives and so forth, and you just have to. And that's why every time we have a buyer walk into a new build, we also get your second opinion, because sometimes the builder, it's a better deal. Sometimes there's so many hidden fees that the incentives aren't necessarily worth it long term.
Majority of the time, it's a better deal right now. But we've seen it to where that changes. Until the interest rate is locked and it's on an LE, like I said, you don't know exactly what you're getting into. Margins through banks can change throughout the period of a build. 12-month build time, even 6-month build time. Margins through banks can change. Interest rates can change. Make sure you're communicating with your lender on what the offering is. Don't just get under contract with a new build and think that, it's going to be great all the way through. We've seen it where it's drastically different.
Yeah.
All
right, good stuff, Justin. Appreciate it,
guys.
man. All righty. Let's get into gripe mode. The things that we as agents just get so hyper focused on and get so caught up on and lose sleep over, and and just lose energy and just being frustrated sometimes just makes my head scratch. The things that agents, and it's the same stuff that agents complain about over and over on the agent Facebook pages and so forth. And so I'm just,
You're going to do it.
I'm going to do it. So don't sweat these things. All right. First one. Don't get upset. Don't gripe and complain because agents aren't picking up your phone calls. Agents get really upset. Oh, agents, I called this agent and he didn't pick up his phone. Well, we can't always answer our phones. That's one thing if I don't return the call. Okay, but I can't always pick up the phone. Sometimes I'm with clients and I can't answer the phone. I'm not going to tell a client, hey, hang on, and I'm just not one of those, and I'm going to pick up the call because I don't want to be rude to my client. Sometimes we're on the other line. Sometimes we're with family. Sometimes we're just answering nature's calls. You do not want me to pick up the phone. And I'm just so,
Boy, was that a vivid picture.
Yeah, and so it's, I think for us as agents, we don't, regardless of how much we complain about other agents not picking up their phones, we're not always picking up our phones. There are things that happen, and it's okay. And don't go to Facebook and start griping about it. Now, again, it's one thing if you call me 3 times and leave 3 messages, and 3 days later I still haven't called you back. That's a legitimate gripe.
Well, it's kind of like if you're selling something on an internet surface, just call it Marketplace or Craigslist, and somebody like texts you 2 or 3 times in a row, is this available? Is this available? Is this available? And then you text them like right back, and then you get ghosted. It's like all of a sudden,
yeah.
it's like, but that happens in real estate as well. Like you'll call on a listing, and then I call you back, and then guess what? Or my wife calls you back because I'm not doing that. But, and then guess what? You never reply again. It's kind of like, well, wait a minute. I replied immediately to you, and then all of a sudden you're not now replying back. So this kind of goes in a myriad of different ways, from both the person that's not answering the first time and the person who doesn't answer when they get the return call. But to their point, they could be in one of these situations.
And I save every agent I've done a cross deal with. They're programmed in my phone. And maybe we had a bad experience. Maybe I just flat out don't want to pick up the phone.
There you go.
Maybe I don't want to talk to you.
Wonder how that works in your client's business.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Because Nick never answers his phone when I call him.
No, I
don't get upset.
You're blocked. So what is your expectation then for? And I think picking up your calls and returning calls are 2 different things. And I think that's one of the issues we run into in our industry is that we are people of immediate gratification. We need, when we try to accomplish something, it to be accomplished immediately. And if it takes more time, we get very discouraged and frustrated. And that's, I think, one of the issues we run into. But I'm going to call someone on a weekend, and most likely they're going to be busy. That's just what weekends are for, especially when you're a realtor. You're dealing with your clients at that point if you don't have children obligations. So I call you, I leave you a message, I call you, and I say shoot you a text, or I don't do either. I just call you and it rings and I hang up. What is your then timeline to get back to me?
Well, I would prefer not to leave a voicemail. I prefer if I don't pick up, just send me a text, and then I'll get back to you and I'll call you back. But if I don't know you and you call and don't leave a message or text, with the amount, that's the other thing, with the amount of spam calls that we're getting on a daily basis, agents are a little more just hesitant to just pick up, answer calls all the time.
One of the things I just noticed even on my phone, I have the newest Apple.
Of course you do.
Well, and so anyway, old guy has to have new technology, you know what I mean? So anyway, here's the thing. So, on my phone, all of a sudden, sometimes incoming calls no longer give me that message option.
Correct.
It just says, accept it or not, or it says, kill it, deny it. But it doesn't give me the option to text. I used to have I still have it. It's a standard text. And if you call me, and to be honest with you, if it doesn't pop up in my phone, it's not a priority for me to answer that phone at that particular time. I have other priorities. So what I'll do is I'll hit that automatic message button that automatically sends you a text that says, hey, I'm on the other line. If this is an emergency, text me right away. It's kind of like anything else. It's, you balance things based on priority.
I would just say before we jump away, a lot of the technology that we're running into with the call filtering because of the spam call is probably causing a lot of this frustration. The calls aren't going through to the other person's phone. So before we move, my suggestion to those that might get into a situation where they feel like they're not having their calls responded to, send the text first. Yes, it's extra steps, but if you're shooting the text that says, hey, this is Nick Wiedekamp, I'm working on a cross sale, or I might be setting an offer, or I'd like to come view the home. I'm going to give you a call in a few minutes. Are you able to answer? You're setting an expectation up front, and so you're lessening your disappointment and your wasting of time.
Cool.
All right, I'm feeling better.
I like that.
All right, not providing showing feedback.
My wife could pitch this for you today.
Okay, just appreciate the fact that somebody's looking at your listing.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate the fact that you took the time and you took your clients to my listing and you previewed it. That helps me. It's at the very least I can go back to my seller and say, hey, we had X amount of showings. And keep in mind, and this is, I don't know who who runs this software. Like, I start getting feedback requests before I'm even done showing homes.
automatic.
It's just
Part of showing time.
nonstop,
Yeah.
and you know, and if you don't get any feedback or an offer, consider that as feedback.
Yeah.
And then for me, if I'm pretty good at providing feedback. I do take the time to do it, but I never answer the question on my feelings of price. In case we do want to make an offer, I'm not going to let you know ahead of time. Hey, man, I think this house is priced right. But personalize your feedback questions. If this means a lot to you, take the time and personalize. You can customize your feedback questions, because the questions there are just stupid. They don't really provide any type of value. But what we do, if you really want feedback and you really want to serve your clients, pick up the phone and call every agent that showed your listing. And I have some great conversations with agents, and they'll be like, oh yeah, and that's where I get the true feedback if I'm wanting to provide feedback, because just relying on the regular feedback, showing feedback questions to me and sending that over to your clients is lazy, because it's not really offering you much.
You know, I think the worst thing that MLSs and these feedback services did is they tied the feedback to the client, meaning you're accessing the home, the agent knows you're accessing it to show a particular client the product. And now all of a sudden you're supposed to tell the agent what you think about, or your client thought about the home before they've had an opportunity to see everything else they're looking at over the next couple of days or weeks, you know? I mean, I just think it's improper timing, but I do like the fact, I think agents, rather than being a listing agent requesting it, I think a buyer's agent almost has an industry obligation to provide a listing agent with information that they might be able to use to more appropriately market that home and maybe have it sell faster, but take it away from the stupid buyer's connection. That is the worst thing. Because to your point, Mike, all of a sudden Mike shows my home. I haven't talked to Mike ever. Mike shows my home. Then all of a sudden, you know, Mike is giving me feedback on it. I'm expecting Mike to give me feedback on it, so that when I see that offer come over and Mike's the agent attached to it, you don't think I'm putting those two things together?
Yeah.
Well, it's a confusing situation that we've built in our industry. To Todd's point, we're asking non-professionals that probably have no idea what they're asking or looking at to provide feedback. I don't like the color of the home. Okay, well, that's not a helpful piece of feedback, but we're asking buyers that might be first-time home buyers. They may have no idea what they're looking at to provide feedback back to the seller. It's just a weird situation that we've set up. I think that makes more sense having professionals give professional opinion, but having it in writing and back and forth in automated systems just doesn't make a lot of sense. Having a conversation again, picking up the phone, building relationships with our industry peers is how we do business forward.
Because I pick up the phone and I call the agents, the amount of feedback that I can provide my sellers is invaluable to them.
Totally.
Because then I'll ask them, you know, I'm not, you know, then I will ask directly about price. Sure. You know, if they're, especially if they're like, yeah, my client's not interested in the house. Okay, what did you think about the price?
Kind of like the purpose of holding an open house. That we think it's to find buyers and sellers. Well, that's the reward we get for holding the open house. The purpose of the holding an open house is to get valuable feedback that the listing agent can bring back to the seller. It might help them price the home properly.
All right, third one, because we got to get rocking and rolling. It's my favorite. People are going to get really ticked.
I'm rolling.
All right. Don't worry about what the listing agent is making. Okay. At the end, you see the settlement sheet and the listing agent's getting 3% and you agreed to 2%. Maybe they're just better negotiators. work on your negotiating skills. What they make, what a listing agent makes, shouldn't concern you. You need to worry about your client. You need to worry about what you're making, because we have no idea. It's like, because agents will go, "Oh, you don't know how many homes I've showed this buyer, and they've been difficult to work with, da 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 da." Well, you don't know the story and the work that goes in behind maybe this particular seller, and the energy and all of that stuff. Agents just need to worry about themselves.
This is.
And I'm sorry. I know I'm not apologizing. People,
I wouldn't apologize either, Mike, because I'm gonna dig my own hole even deeper. So here's the thing about this. The thing is I would wish, if Todd had a wish for 2026, that AAR does away with the seller compensation addendum. And that's going to make everybody freak out. Well, but it shouldn't, because now as a buyer's agent, contractual obligation to a buyer now versus just a fiduciary with a non-contractual. Now you're contractually liable to the services that you provide. And you need to perform similar services with a buyer like you do with a seller. And we did talk about this on one of the prior podcasts, which was, don't you have an obligation to get an estimated settlement sheet from the lender as to approximately how much the buyer's proceeds are going to need to be to close on a home? And again, your lender is going to make sure the buyer's agent, your compensation is going to be included in that amount of money. So when the buyer sees that particular amount of money that they're going to have to bring to the table at the end, and then they say, I don't have that kind of money. Well, wouldn't you like to know that today? And then the second thing is, doesn't that better help you prepare creating your offer anyway? So, I agree with you, Mike. I think if somebody's a great negotiator and can earn more compensation than another agent, which is really the way the business should be, that's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing.
Are we down to 2 listeners now, 2 viewers?
I would say that the goal
for Roy.
Real estate agents running a business is to think like a business. Businesses that are the most successful worry about themselves, worry about their value, worry about what they are doing right. They don't worry about what the other person is doing. Those that worry about what the other person is doing better than them are going to fail. It's a Simon Sinek thing. It's a great conversation about the infinite mind versus the finite mind. Don't worry about what the other guy's doing. Worry about what you can do. Worry about your value and provide those things to your clients, and you will prevail in the long term. Short term, maybe not, but the long term, you will always succeed.
It's an interesting point, because we're one of the only industries where we see what everybody makes.
Correct.
Right? If I walk into a store and buy a TV, I don't know what, at the end of the day, what the profit margin is.
You don't, but you know that you're paying more for a Samsung than you are for a Vizio, and that's where the value is. And so as agents, we should carry ourselves to those standards.
Yeah.
All right, let's now have some fun. Roy, I don't know if anyone's listening now.
We kind of shot your audience.
All right, Roy Cady is joining us. He is one of West USA's top coaches, as well as team leader, and as well as a top producer year over year. So, Roy, thank you for joining us. And I asked you to pick topic, provide 5 tips, and you wanted to just talk about the 5 things that you have learned over the last 85 years of doing real estate.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I know it was kind of a last minute deal.
Never say that.
Never say that.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. That's kind of like going to a listing appointment and really feeling as though you don't know what you're doing. You're telling somebody that.
Yeah, exactly, right?
All right, so let's just jump in and have a dialogue. So I absolutely love this. Consistency beats talent. There are so many different ways, but this is the thing that this industry lacks, that agents don't understand, that it is all about consistency.
Yes, absolutely. And, one of the reasons I picked this is talking with agents and mentoring agents all the time. These are the biggest things that I've learned from coaching and mentoring people is it comes a point where consistency just outweighs everything else. I mean, you can be the most talented, sharpest, perfect, ideal person, if you will, but if you're not consistent in doing these things, it's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, the person that's consistent and keeps moving forward, wakes up every day and goes to work, has a schedule, are going to end up being the most successful. I love
And so, what would you say are some specific examples of how this plays out?
You know, from my experience, I see that in this line of work, we all wake up as realtors in the morning, and unless you have a schedule or you have something planned for the day, you're out of business. I just find that people get up in the morning, you have to have a structure, you have to have a schedule, you have to know what you're going to do that day. What are you doing at 9 o'clock? What are you doing at 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock? Let's not forget, this is a relationship business.
Yeah.
You have to be dealing with people and building relationships.
You know, I think for me, one of the first area that this really jumps out, because, you know, I can be a talented agent. I can really know how to converse with people, and I can really know how to engage people, and I'm working open houses, and I've got great conversations. But where the consistency comes in is the follow-up of, okay, now how and when is my cadence of my follow-up? Oh, Mike, I could call them twice and they're ghosting me. Okay, did they tell you to pound sand? No. Okay, then you know, I can't tell you for me, and I'm sure it's the same thing for you, of just like I'm working with someone right now. I started this process 5 years ago, but it's leveraging my CRM. And it's just the consistency of just, here is my follow-up strategy. This is how frequently I follow up. This is how I follow up, so that at the point that person is now ready to transact, I'm now top of mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, follow-up's a whole nother subject, right? I mean,
you know, this speaks to the person who wakes up and they're high in the morning. I used to have a buddy, Jimmy Johnson, one of my friends, and he used to wake up every single morning, and he was up and out so early, but his whole thing all day long was, how many people can I meet? That was his goal, but that's because that's the kind of guy he was. You know, on the other hand, you know, you have somebody else who doesn't have that attribute. You know, D probably does too, because they know the numbers, right? You talk to 100 people, you're going to close, you know, 1.6 deals. But what ends up happening is the rest of the 80% of us that are realtors, that are either high S's or high C's, that, you know, we don't wake up in the morning to be able to go say, oh, I can't wait to go meet somebody new today. We're strategizing, but we never go to work. You know, the thing is you got to get up, go to work. You got to set yourself. I used to tell people that worked at home, listen, if all you did this morning was get up and go to Circle K and buy yourself a coffee, remember that, Mike, and drive around the block and then come back, you know, your attitude about how you do the rest of your day is going to be totally different than if you wake up and you just don't have a plan.
No, absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, people don't get up in the morning and just plan to fail that day, right? I mean, they're not
also
planning
don't plan to win.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I think, and I think we would all agree. I mean, follow-up is usually one of the weaknesses for a lot of salespeople, not just agents that are doing real estate. I was guilty of that myself when I first started. I mean, you call somebody once or twice and that's it. You don't hear back from them. They don't call you back. You don't call them the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time. It usually takes 6 or 7 times before they say, hey, I'm ready to list my house.
And that's a national average. That's a national sales average. Yeah. All right. Number 2, lead generations solve most problems. What do you mean by that?
You know, lead generation solves most problems. I mean, most agents, when you ask them how they're doing, how's business, if it's slow, what's the reason for that? It's because their pipeline is not full. They're not doing those type of things, right? And we all run into that. The difference is the seasoned agents are going to dig down a little harder, and they're going to stay more focused and kind of build that. Lead generation, that's this business. I mean, we have to be out there generating leads. We have to. If we're not, we're
dead.
We're dead. We're
Right.
out of business. I mean, so that's a huge one. And you know, then people say, well, what is lead generation? How do you get leads? What do you do? I always tell agents it's not just one thing. It's a bunch of different things. Because if it's not working over here, it may work over here and here and here. I use open houses, for example. Somebody goes and does an open house. They don't get a lot of people coming in and out of the property. Do they do one next week because it was slow that week? You just can't time it that way. You have to get consistent. Set a goal. You're going to do 5 a month. You're going to do 3 a month, 2 a month. I don't care if it's 1 a month, but do what you say you're going to do.
We have this young agent on our team, and full disclosure, completely stole the concept from the Valley Home Group. he's doing 100 open houses in 100 days.
I saw that.
And just his ability to have real estate conversations and overcome objections has grown exponentially. But that was the key. It's the consistency of, because, agents go out and do 10 open houses and they don't get anything, and then they're not doing the follow-up, and then they're like, open houses suck, and they're not effective. But back to the lead generations, I love the point is, and especially for newer agents, and this is why our coaching program is so great, or the team structures are so great. Lead generation is just not, I need Zillow leads or I need Realtor.com leads, because those aren't fun.
Yeah.
It's going through the exercise. What are the different ways that agents generate leads? Whether it's social media might be one of them. Whether it's networking events is one of them. Maybe, I don't know. I've heard some people pick up the phone and start calling people. That might be a thing. And going back to consistency in your calendar and so forth. There's a gazillion different types of lead generating activities. And it generally takes a couple years to figure out which ones work for you and which ones don't. Some people love door knocking. Some people don't. I say you try everything, but eventually you get to the point where here are my top 3 to 5 lead generating activities, and then that is now what I focus on.
Perfect. That's what makes an experienced agent more efficient usually than a newer agent, is the fact that you've identified what works. Get this, for you, the person you look at in the mirror. That's the only person you're in competition with. What's going to make you wake up and go do something? But I like this because there's so many memes out there on the internet today that talk about this kind of same concept. It's like, you can solve all your bottom line problems by increasing your price. You can solve all your bottom line problems by getting another sale. You can solve all your bottom line. Okay, well, if all those things are there, you can't save yourself if they're not there. You can't save yourself into a profit. There's no way you're going to pay your bills by not spending money this month. The only way you're going to pay your bills is by having new cash flow come into your life. And the only way to do that is to go find a way that works for you to bump into people and have a real estate conversation.
So, Roy, when you started out, it's hard to remember, right? Like, gosh, day one of, I remember day one. I totally remember day one. But what were your lead generating activities, and how they've evolved over the years?
Honestly, for me, and you guys know this, I got involved with the inbound sales program.
Yeah.
I just did. And, I know a lot of agents don't, it's like, rentals, I don't want to do that. I tell you what, I built my business from that. I could sit here and tell you a story. My first couple ones that I got turned into some huge deals. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just give you a little piece of that. My month and a half when I started in the inbound sales program, I got a lead that came in, and somebody wanted to list their property for rent, 83rd and Deer Valley. So I put it up, I listed the property and so forth. I had a couple from Boston that reached out to me. They were both doctors. They're both transferring to Banner. They rented the property, leased the property. Everything was going well for about 2 months. The landlords called me and said, hey, we're getting a divorce. I want to sell the property. Well, what happened? I ended up selling both the doctors a brand new build, 800 and some thousand. This was my first sale from when I got into the business. I sold him. They got divorced. I sold the landlord, both of them, a house. Christine is her name. I'm still in touch with her. I still have her property now, renting and so forth. One of the other agents just rented it for me here not too long ago. So that's a big part of how I started.
That's great.
And it goes back to the follow-up, keeping in touch with these people and so forth. So
I think it's a shame, Mike, that after you've done all the work, not to sell a house and close it. That's one thing. But to meet somebody and to get them in a conversation with you about personal stuff, about their kids, about life, and yet you don't stay in touch with those people over time.
Yeah.
All the business you got to be wasting.
Yeah.
And missing.
That's where I think we leave all the money on the table. Yeah. My first lead generating tool was Floor Time. That's how long I've been in this business. You remember those days, Todd?
Yes.
And people would walk in. We were on a storefront, and people would walk in, and we fought for floor time, and the amount of homes that I sold.
Oh, you were crushing
floor
it. Yeah.
But you know what I didn't do? No one back then was
nobody
telling
stayed
me
in
about the
touch with
follow up. And all right, good stuff.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
before.
problem with lead gen. That's the problem with like buying internet leads or being in a storefront like that. Is you become reliant on the next lead. You don't think that there's a value in the one you just closed or the people that you just met that you didn't close.
All right, so we kind of started getting into this. Follow up is where the money is, and I was just saying, the lack of follow up is where we leave all the money on the table. The reason that I have a slight weight problem is because I am from one of those generations that my parents, I was not allowed to leave the table until I cleared my plate. And you think about, I mean, I could get serious on that. Like, that's terrible, and I cannot, I will, it doesn't matter how much food you put in front of me. I don't like to leave food on the table. But I also don't like to leave money on the table. And follow-up is everything, and I'm specifically talking about after the close, but follow-up is once you meet somebody, what's the follow-up look like?
I mean, imagine that the people that you met aren't ever going to buy from you, but they know somebody or will bump into somebody that will. And if you don't stay in touch with them, then they're gone. You're not going to get that.
Yeah, and we've touched on this. It's hard not to, but it's just one of those things. I mean, follow-up is extremely important. Whether you're following up to generate the lead base and do that type of thing, or you sold a house. You sold the house and you never talked to them again. They're not going to remember you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't remember who I bought a car from 3 years ago if they're not staying in touch with me and follow up, sending me something through Drip Campaign or what have you. Follow-up's huge, not just in real estate, but I think in any sales business. And it's a weakness that we all have, and you really got to stay consistent and focus on that.
So a little bit more specific, what are some of your follow-up strategies and techniques? Or, okay, let's say you meet somebody, you have an initial real estate conversation, you're able to collect their name and number, and what's the Roy Cady system?
Yeah, my biggest thing is text messaging and keeping in touch. Finding out something about somebody, whether they, their dog. I like dogs. I have a couple German Shepherds. If they have a dog, I may reach out to them a month and a half, 2 months later. How's Lacey doing? How's the pet? Just in the conversation with them. Of course, I have everybody set up on a drip campaign. I think that's huge because if I forget, at least they're getting something. Something I've recently started here about 6-7 months ago in my neighborhood is doing through Harvest. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they do, it's mail outs. They do 4 touches. I do some email stuff and that type of thing. But these aren't just people that I've sold. This is kind of generating the business too and following up and doing those type of things.
Yeah, I think that's also going back to the inbound sales team. I think that is one of the maybe underappreciated benefits is when agents join the inbound sales team, you're forced to use a CRM, and you walk away understanding the importance of a CRM, and you have that habit. Because for me, the CRM, my CRM is the lifeblood of my business. I would be poor. I mean, I would be just dirt poor if I didn't have a CRM system.
Yeah, and I think that stands true for all of us. And it's amazing because I do run into agents that are seasoned and they do a lot of business and they still don't have one. So, I mean,
well, they're smarter than me. I'm not saying that you're going to be dirt poor if you don't have a CRM system, but I would be.
Yeah.
And I make a lot more money because I leverage my CRM system.
I like the word system, Mike. I like it better than I like the word CRM, but I like the word system because you can have any system as long as there is one and that you're being consistent with it. And the other piece of this is the word conversion, and I hate the word conversion. I used to love it because it meant money. But now it means that I'm trying to force the round peg in a square hole. Now it means I'm trying to, I think my goal is to take every person that I talk to and force them into an appointment with me, or force them into the next step, or force them in. And although there's some element of truth in the fact that, we do have to continually try and schedule those appointments and do the things, no questions asked. But sometimes people just aren't at that right point yet. And so you need to, and if there's anything that I can ever encourage people to do, it's communicate with people, not to be the person who's going to convert them, but to be the person who's going to help them through this process, answer any questions they have. Just stay in communication with them. To Roy's point, talk about the dog. I don't care. Find a hobby or an interest that you share with somebody and talk to them about that. But in the end, the word conversion is being there at the time when the buyer's ready or the seller's ready to make that commitment. In the meantime, it's not about conversion. It's about, winning friends, influencing people.
And I use the term top of mind. I want to be top of mind when Roy is ready to transact. That's how I know that my follow-up is effective and working. Anything specific that you do as far as follow-up after you hand the keys off to John and Susie Miller?
I don't know that there's anything really specific, except I do reach out to them after they've lived in the house for a couple weeks and see how things are going, make sure see if they have any questions and that type of thing. I'm just big on texting them. I mean, it goes back, and we'll be touching on it. It's the relationship. It's just the relationship. I don't want to just sell them a house and be gone. I want to be their friend. I want to be, like Mike said, on top of mind. If something comes up, I want to think of Roy.
All right, so getting into relationships, you could take 100 people, put them in a room, and ask them what their definition of a relationship is in the text of what we are trying to accomplish, and you're going to get 100 different answers. What does this mean to you?
I think the biggest thing, it's not chasing clients, not chasing them. It's, again, we've been saying this word a lot, but it's the relationship. This is a relationship business. So that's what it means to me, is I think agents that are not just chasing the business, but they're building relationships, there's just something there for that.
The hard thing is, and this is why, I know you're one of our top coaches here at West USA, but this is a hard thing for new agents. Because if maybe I left another industry and maybe I've had 2 months of reserves, and you begin to immediately feel the pressure and the stress of, that first closing, and then you get so far behind that first closing is just paying back, right? And there's this overwhelming pressure. And I think, Todd, to your point, that's where we're in conversion mode. We gotta convert. And where this is a relationship-based business, and relationships take time. Very, you think about your spouse or your relationship with your significant other. It wasn't, I took my wife out on the first date and proposed to her. Didn't, and we
How would that have worked?
Well, if we were in Vegas and throwing back a few, I was about to say people do this. So, but it took time.
Yes.
It's because we always maintain, Nick and I always say this, that, in sales, people only buy from those that they trust. And trust takes time. And so what's your advice for like the new agents that are like, golly, I need to convert right now?
I would say be patient, focus on the relationships. Don't just try to push somebody into that, right? You got to be friends. They got to like you, right? I mean, it's got to kind of start with that. I think that's the most important thing. I always tell agents, find something you enjoy. Like me personally, I like, you guys, some of you know, I like the dirt bikes and getting out there and that type of thing. I do that for a couple reasons. One is the relationships. People trust me. They know me. They see me out at the track. I just had somebody from Idaho at one of the races a couple weeks ago. He's planning to move here. He called me. He wants to buy a house. I wouldn't have got that unless I was part of that, right?
Yeah.
So I tell people, find something you enjoy to do. If it's shooting pool and you're out there playing pool or shooting darts, you're gonna be okay.
I like thinking that in this perspective, You can't tell somebody now's the time to buy. You could, but what you've got to do is lead them to that realization all by themselves, or it's now that they want to buy this particular house. You've got to lead them. You got to say things. Don't tell them it's a good house and they should buy it. You got to lead them to come to that decision all by themselves from that, that's what they want to become. And the second thing, to Roy's point, is just, it's like me, trust me. The more you're just in conversation with people, the more they have an opportunity to learn something about you they didn't know in the last conversation that makes them want to maybe talk to you again.
I just tell people that my wife has very expensive handbag tastes, and I need you to buy this house now because my anniversary's coming up. But I think, Roy, we could combine points 2 and 4. Lead generation activities are those that provide you opportunities to build relationships with people. And then now when you think about that and you think of it through that prism, then I think it will really impact the type of lead generating activities that you might consider.
Before you try to force somebody into buying a home, the secret to what you just said, Mike, is just put yourself in more opportunity mode. Put yourself back out in the open houses. Put yourself back out where there's a steady stream of people that just by mistake, the laws of averages are going to work on your behalf. Because you can't, if you do it the other way, it's going to come unwound.
All right. Mindset is everything. I mean, if you don't have the right mindset, don't worry about points 1, 2, 3, and 4. You forget about. So, to you, what's the right mindset for this business?
I think skills matter, but mindset is the most important. Staying focused, focused on what you're trying to get done. I think that's the most important thing an agent can do. You got to have a positive mindset. You got to enjoy what you're doing. You got to want to do it. And again, it goes back to the relationships and staying focused.
Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, again, you could have a gazillion different answers to the question, but I think it's 2 things for me. It's being goal-driven, because if I have the goal, I know where I'm going, but I also think, especially in this business, there's an element of resiliency, because bad stuff happens. People cheat on you, and deals fall out, and people lose their jobs 72 hours prior to close of escrow, and it can really beat you up mentally and emotionally. But I still have the goal in mind. And you have to develop a strong sense of resiliency to overcome the challenges.
There's books out there that deal with your why, WHY. What is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing? Maybe you had a realtor who helped you buy your house, and you just thought, oh my gosh, for the caliber service I just got, they made really good money. Maybe I want to get into that career. Or maybe it was a horrible performance, and you said, oh, I want to get into real estate because I want to protect more people from people like that. Whatever the reason was you got in, but more importantly, the why is the passion behind what you do, why you wake up in the morning. And and this girl, Kate Gentry, said to me many, many years ago when I asked her, we were in this classroom and we were dealing with, defining the word why. And her answer was, it's what makes you do what you don't want to do when you know you have to do it. Yeah. And to me, I think that's mindset.
All right, Roy, tell us a little bit about the coaching program.
Okay, the coaching program, I think most know, we do a lot of mentoring, coaching. People always say, what's the difference between coaching and mentoring? Well, mentoring is somebody that you're going to mentor. Maybe it's a newer agent. Coaching is somebody like us. They're seasoned. People sometimes forget that even though you're seasoned and you've been doing this for many, many, many years, that doesn't mean you don't need a coach. Coaching holds people accountable. Mm-hmm. I always use the example in professional sports. I mean, you got pro football, pro basketball, right? I mean, those guys a lot of times they're better than the coach is, right? I mean, they're better players, but why do they have a coach? They have a coach so it can keep them grounded, so it can keep them focused and that type of thing. That's important. If you're in the West USA Arrowhead office, and I do have an office there, so please stop by and say hi. I'd love to chit chat with you. Can we do recruiting on this program?
Absolutely.
Stop by and see me. I'm there in the area. I've got my name on the door. I'd love to visit with you.
I just want to say one thing real quick. So this weekend, I had an opportunity to go for a run with an individual that we had just met. He had messaged me and said, our wives are friends. Do you want to go for a run on Sunday? I said, yeah, sure. So, we met, we were jogging, and we were talking. And the conversation went to our past, how do we get into running, et cetera. He had run in college at a collegiate level on a scholarship. He was running 100 to 120 miles a week. That was 10, 15 years ago. His running had slowed down. He had other prioritizations. He reached out to me because he wanted someone to hold him accountable to wake up in the morning to go and run. And this is something I think we don't put the right, to your point on number 5, mindset to coaching. When we hit a certain level of production, we do 5, 6, 7, 8, 30, 40, whatever that high producer number is in our heads. We then stop and we forget and we let other things come into play and we slip. Someone running 100 to 120 miles, I have nothing to provide them. They know more than I do. They put in more time, but he was looking to me not necessarily as a mentor, but as someone to just be a coach, work with them, talk about our forms, work about trail running, and just be accountable to one another. And I think that is one of the most powerful things that coaching can do that we just don't talk about enough.
Yeah. I thought Nick was going to confess on air that I'm actually his running coach. So
for sure, buddy.
Roy, good stuff. I appreciate it. And it doesn't matter what office you're out of. You got Roy's information. I know up there on the screen. He'd love to have a conversation with you, point you in the right direction, take advantage of, and that's the other thing I love about the coaching program. Really what you're taking advantage of, the years of experience that our coaches bring to the table, the amount of bad decisions that they will help you avoid, because we've done them.
Been there.
Been there and done that. All right, appreciate it, Roy. We leave everybody with the quote of the day: momentum is built on follow through, not follow up. Appreciate everybody joining us. Go out and sell a home.